5:31 on a Thursday. Time for fine tailored suits, brought to you by Quality Tire. 10 locations across Saskatchewan. QualityTire.ca. Suits, you've never looked or sounded better on this show, my friend. How are you?
I am well. Been listening in all day. Good discussions, some sad in some cases with leagues that have to cancel some seasons. But yeah, I been on the Twitter lines, on the phone calls, trying to get all the information I can possibly get to pass on to the listener.
I love it. I've been devolving every sport into my consumption of hot dogs. We'll maybe get to that toward the back end of our half hour together. We're going to start this one by giving away a Glen Suitor jersey. Zinger has some, I don't even know if we came to an official title this, Zinger, but it is like murderous trivia.
Yeah, man, this one might be pretty tough today. My source on this one is from, it was from YouTube, and Rob, I got it from Rob Vanstone. So when Rob Vanstone says something, you know it's true, right? So here's my question. Here's my question for today. A timeout was called prior to Dave Ridgway's game-winning kick in the 89 Grey Cup. What did Ridgway say to Glenn during the timeout?
Oh my God. You went to the ultimate deep cut.
306-936-6262, 866-767-0620.
This is Saskatchewan folklore, Zinger.
Yeah, this one's deep. I'll take anything roughly close to the right answer. Okay, it doesn't need to be word for word, because obviously I don't think Rob said it word for word when he said it on YouTube.
Yeah,
so I'll be a little lenient.
So what did Dave Ridgway say to Suits during the timeout before the game-winning kick in the 89 Grey Cup?
That's right.
I know what it is. Is that John Candy? Is that right? Did he do the Joe Montana thing to you, Suits? Is that right?
No, it wasn't any of that. No, it wasn't any of that. In fact, there were two separate things, and I think if you want, you could accept both answers. And they were very different too, by the way. And if you've ever been to a speaking engagement where I've been up there, you've heard this story.
I love it. I don't know the answer to this, so
this is Saskatchewan folklore.
I'm super excited to get to it. Suits, we got to start off with the CFL offering to the Players Association, saying, hey, you know what? Why don't you take a 20% pay cut if we play games without fans in the stands? As you know, that proposal from the folks you've been talking to as well, what's your impression of that proposal and how well it will go over?
Well, obviously it's not easy. It's another sacrifice, and it's one that I think we should first of all put in perspective. But it's been tough on the players, and I acknowledge that. And there, I was playing in the league when there were crises and issues that had to be overcome, financial issues that had to be overcome, and the players at that time had to take deep cuts and sacrifice to keep the league going, keep the league alive, keep it up and running. So I think that's where you start. I mean, I totally understand the frustrations and how difficult it has been for a lot of the players, some of which got some bonus money, but others did not, and have had to go really a whole year and a bit without getting paid to play football. And that's very difficult. But having said that, let's put it in perspective for a second here. And just remember that while this has not been reported in some of the, the big headlines, throughout this pandemic, I'll take the riders, for instance. 30% of rider employees were permanently laid off or furloughed. So that was including football ops and business ops. And that starts from the top and works all its way down. I mean, Craig Reynolds and Jeremy O'Day, and all the way down. In fact, the deepest cuts were at the top, and then they had to, these are Regina citizens that were working for the riders who no longer are. And they've had to take and really cut back. And not only those jobs that have been lost, but there's also a lot of jobs in the business side that have had to go through what they said in a press release back in June was financial adjustments, which is sort of a soft way of saying pay cuts. And, we've seen DT, the coaches have been cut, the numbers of coaches, salaries there. So, I think what we should start by saying is that these aren't negotiations between the Players Association and the league. We shouldn't call them negotiations. What we should call them is what they are right now, which is crisis management meetings to find collaboration so that they can get on the field. That's what this is. And that's not to try to find a bad guy or, to find a victim in the headlines that you're reading, but to give perspective that every single team from top down has lost employees, have taken big pay cuts to make sure they could keep the business going while they try to figure out a plan to get back on the field.
This 20% number comes out in a proposal after the CFL. Basically, all teams, from what we believe, all teams have said, we're not spending to the cap, we're going to spend to the floor, which is 12% less than total salaries. I just wanted to run some numbers on this of what teams would save by paying their players 20% less. 4 games, 8 teams play per week. It looks like it would be about $400,000 per week in savings on salaries for players alone collectively, which that's real money. It doesn't change everything. It's real money. And on the other side, it's real money coming from real people who are the product that the CFL is selling to us every week. So I get really, I honestly don't know what to make of this. It's important the CFL cuts its costs, but kind of like with everything else, whenever government tries to tell me, oh yeah, we need to do this, I'm like, well, you can't find that somewhere else. You can't reduce plane trips or this and not have it be people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I hear you. And that would be ideal. I mean, it would be ideal if it could go to a sponsor or, a partner or, some of the other pieces of the puzzle that all have to come and be put into place here to make this work. If it'd be great if it was just that and they didn't have to go back to employees or back to the players themselves or coaches and say, hey, we need to take a little bit more back just to get past the, no fans in the stands possibly for June and July. And then as we get further on, which wasn't in the first headlines that we read, but we're sort of in the next 3 or 4, you get that shock and awe. And then you get, oh, well, actually, it's not 80% across the board. It's actually a 20% cut only if there's no fans in the stands. And then that would be coming back to them once fans were back in there. So
if fans can get back in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing, right? There's so much uncertainty around it of, well, would you actually play games without fans? Because some express doubt the CFL actually even wants to do that. Would you play games? When can fans get back in? What happens if they can go back in BC, but they can't anywhere else? Things like that. There's just so much uncertainty to the players are going to feel like, well, this might set a bad precedent if we go ahead and agree to this up front, because who knows what's to come.
Exactly. Well, there is still uncertainty, and I have actually, if you'll allow me, at the very end of the show, I have a half full update. It's called a half full update of just 3 or 4 items that are going to set you off on your weekend with some good news, because I'm like everybody else, and Connie, who texted you a few minutes ago, who are just tired of hearing bad news. So I got some good news at the end of it all. But, you're right.
Glasses, that's all right.
You're going to tell me that Michigan's going to the Final Four this weekend, right?
Sorry about that. No, it's not. It's not a Final. Hey, hell, is Belmont in it? My son went to Belmont in Nashville. I was wondering if they have a good basketball program. Anyway, get back to the topic. And I hear you with the players feeling like they're often the brunt. But again, this is a separate. It's not a negotiation. It's crisis management meetings where if they can somehow, and as a former player, I'm telling you, as a former player right now, if I'm looking at a proposal where I know that the leadership in the company, the leadership in the league, so that means the commissioner who took a pay cut, that means Craig Reynolds, if I'm playing for the Riders, and Jeremy O'Day and the coaching staff and everybody, and the people that are working in the office that are lying in bed at night looking up at the ceiling, wondering if they can make the mortgage. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, I can make 80% of my salary after a year where I didn't make anything. And if I wait and don't do this, now I'm 2 years out without playing a football game. And I'm not getting any younger if I'm 25, 27. And there's college kids coming up every year. And this is a competitive business. And now I've sat out 2 straight years. Keep in mind that a lot of these employees that have been furloughed or laid off, usually the teams in the regular season will bring in more staff. They're going to bring in a lot of part-time staff. That all stops too. So the current, employees in the company have taken pay cuts more than once or financial adjustments, and they're taking the hit too, and they're sacrificing as well. And now they're going to be asked, if we do get back to plan, which we will be, they're going to be asked to do twice as much as they were doing before.
Yep.
With a little bit less money. So I guess what I'm saying is it's crisis management. Everybody's taking a hit here. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get it done. There is some good news. There's some bright light at the end of the tunnel. We can get to that in a bit. But, there's no victim here. This is a discussion to collaborate, and it is a proposal.
Yeah.
The players can come back and they can say, hey, what if we try it this way? And let's see where this goes.
This is a question I've been trying to nail down, Suits, is what's the actual risk to the players if they just said, no, we're not doing any of that. No, we've already agreed we have a CBA in place. We're good with that. What do we believe is the actual risk to the players of saying no to this?
Yeah, the risk is that they've gone now 2 straight years without playing a football game. And,
I feel like the CFL wouldn't play if they couldn't get these salary cuts.
Oh, no. Oh, I see what your question is. I'm saying I thought you meant if they came to an impasse and they weren't going to play because they decided they're not taking the cut. So they're saying they're not going to. Okay, so we're taking back a step to,
the players would say, hey, no, we're not doing this 20% thing. We'll play under the deals that we signed that you guys gave us, knowing what was coming. You guys signed, redid Cody's deal. You redid Shaq's deal. What do we think would be the result to players? Like, what's the threat that would make them, and threat is too strong a word. What's the impetus for them to take this minus 20% deal?
Well, because they're trying to get some income to play football and get back on tape again, get back there out on the field again, and do it because your time is limited as a pro football player. That's the immediate objective for every player right now, is to get back on the field. But I know what you mean though with the salaries and the 20%. I would look at it. The ex-player in me says I would take 80%, understanding that all in the organization is sacrificing here. They've all gone through the cuts. Mm-hmm. Everybody from the person that is helping with the equipment, who's making, I don't know, 25, 30 grand a year, who knows? That guy has also taken cuts or been laid off. I want to get him back to work. So I'm going to sign that and say, because if they don't, then now we're talking about maybe a counteroffer. What's that counteroffer? Is it less percentage? Is it a more drastic counteroffer from the Players Association, which would sound something like maybe, no, we'd rather not play with no fans in the stands at 80%. When can we have fans in the stands and we get 100%? And then the league comes back and says, well, maybe that's not till August. So we'll miss 3 or 4 games of the regular season. You don't get paid for those that you don't play.
Yeah.
So that's what they're looking at. But the most important aspect, DT, is the players cannot sit out 2 straight years. They can't. There's too much competition in pro sports. The next group of college athletes are ready to go compete. You got to stay active and playing. And the owners have got to play. We have got to play. 2 presidents in the last couple of days have said, we are playing. Hamilton and Montreal.
Right.
They said, we are playing, because they know the urgency. So this is a collaboration in crisis management. That's what this is.
I come from this. I'm trying to envision myself. If I was a player agent, Suits, I would be looking at this and going, okay, well, you cut my client by this and you want him to cut some more. And oh, by the way, our CBA is up at the end of this season. And I just know as an agent, you're going to use this pandemic to absolutely try and hammer us on the next collective bargaining agreement. And I don't know that I believe whatever my player gives you right now is going to change how you approach negotiations for the new collective bargaining agreement. There's always distrust, right? It's ownership, it's players. There's always going to be distrust. I don't know what the upside is for the players to accept this, and I don't know what the potential downside is then for them to not accept this. Because if Ticats president and CEO Scott Mitchell says, we're playing, I'm ready to play on the 88% deal I've already signed with you. I'm ready. Let's go. Would be my stance if I was a player and a player agent.
Well, I'm going to find my $5. I got to find my $5
for
the jar.
Coming out, Singer.
Okay, so unprecedented times call for drastic measures, and this is not to answer the question about the agent. This is not normal times. This is not where you can go, well, what happens in 2 years? What happens in a year from now if they don't negotiate in good faith? What happens if, and then the speculation game begins. I think what we have to deal with right now is the reality, the medical protocols, the planning, trying to get on the field, get the players from the U.S. up into Canada. How long is that going to take? There's some good news in the NHL from that respect, in that regard. And then, just work on a deal that mitigates as much as possible the sacrifices are going to be asked. I sat in the room with Bill Baker. I know what this feels like, and it's awful. And I feel for the players. I get it. Quarterbacks have taken a big hit already.
Add a monster cut.
Yeah, I would fight. I'll fight for Canadians till my last breath in our game and Canadian jobs, all of that. But this is a chance for both sides. And what I hope happens here is that they both go to the podium in about 2 weeks' time and say, we're going to try and get as many Canadians back to work in these stadiums, back to work in these offices, because they're hurting too. So we're both going to take this, and then we're going to start fresh in negotiating a longer term deal.
I wonder how inspired players will be to do that when they ultimately know how absolutely disposable they are. When to their management, hey, feel free to come to camp. Oh, by the way, you're cut. Like, players are ultimately, they know they're eventually disposable. How much am I going to take responsibility for your financial troubles that may not, that aren't my fault, will be a thing that all players are going to have to come to. Just quickly.
Quickly, TT. The fault is COVID. The fault is COVID right now. The fault in the bigger picture discussion, the fault in the bigger and the business model and all of that, and undisciplined management and all of those things, that's another discussion. But right now, getting back on the field in 21, the enemy is COVID. Now the two sides got to work together and figure out how they're going to mitigate it to get as many employees and people back working.
Hot dog, we have a wiener. Zigger, is that correct? We've got a winner of the Glen Suitor jersey?
We got a wiener.
Well, let's catch up and tell us who wins then.
Nice.
So today's question was a timeout was called prior to Dave Ridgway's game-winning kick in the 89 Grey Cup. What did Ridgway say to Glenn during the timeout? And the answer is...
Don't give us the answer. Tell us who the winner is. I want Suits to tell the story.
All right. Sounds good. That's a better idea. See, that's why you're the host. I'm just here. I'm just following orders. Adrian DeCorby is the winner of Saskatoon.
Adrian.
All right.
Nice job, Adrian.
It's yours.
Well, I'll do the cold notes of it because so many people have heard it. They're probably just rolling their eyes right now. But Dave always talked to me before big kicks. Always. He wanted to change the subject. Let's talk about something else. So he walked up to me and he wanted to go camping. We had talked about it. He'd never been camping, he wasn't an outdoors guy, city guy. And I said, we'll go out, but the bears are out there as well. And he got this big, ugly look in his eye, like he was scared to death about bears. And I said, remember, I don't have to run faster than the bear, just faster than you. And the other story that has been told, and I do this with great respect, is that in warm-up, I noticed a woman that was in a shirt that revealed that she was large. Yeah, like a large breasted woman. I'll just say it, I guess. And anyway, at the end of the game, I said to him just before the kick that she was watching from right behind the Hamilton bench. Well, Dave laughed about that because he couldn't see anybody behind the bench. And I know he couldn't, but I just said it just out of fun. And after the game was over, we had a linebacker for Hamilton come up and say, hey, congratulations, guys, good kick. But why were you laughing at us just before you put the winning field goal through? And we said, no, we weren't laughing. We weren't laughing at you. We were laughing at the girl in the white t-shirt that was in like row 10, was right behind you guys at the bench. It goes, oh yeah, the girl with the white t-shirt on. Oh yeah, our whole bench saw her. So there was that story as well. I'm not sure which one was told, but
That's the one Adrian brought up to me, Glenn. Yep.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah, Adrian remembered the white T-shirt. That's fantastic.
And I do that with great respect.
5:53. Suits, how long is your half full update? Because I wanted to talk about another retirement of a
Sure.
just in his 20s, but we got about 5 minutes. Do you have time for both? You figure?
Yes. Yeah. Let's do both.
Bryant Mitchell retiring on the backs of Delvin Breaux retiring, Ricky Collins Jr., Shane Bergman, Tommy Campbell, guys with life left in them, CFL life left in them, deciding that it's just better to retire. We unfortunately had another one today.
Yeah, again, no bad guys here. With Bryant Mitchell, very good player who's gone through quite a journey. I mean, didn't get any offers out of high school, played junior college, had to get, through a few years of that to get to Div 1. He got a Div 1. He didn't get any NFL opportunities. Came up to the CFL, got cut a couple of times from both leagues, fought through that, went back, played 3 years, invested himself to become a very good football player. And maybe this has sped up the process of him retiring. Maybe not. I don't know. There's always personal reasons for it. I think the lessons he's learned in perseverance will be with him for the rest of his life. And he got those playing football. So I wish him the best. And this is going to happen with some people. Again, no bad guy here, except maybe COVID rushed the process.
Yeah, I can't help but think a 28-year-old deciding to hang it up is just part of the, however much of it, some of it was damn COVID. And that makes me ultimately pretty sad. All right. You promised us a half full update. I'm excited for this. I need some good news going into Friday.
Okay, good news going into the weekend. First of all, Joe Biden has administered about a 200 million doses of the vaccine, which means they're going to be done by May, which means it's easier to get through the border because of the Americans being vaccinated. Plus, they're going to have more vaccinations to ship to Canada. That may speed up ours. We're looking at early September, maybe August now, to have every Canadian citizen vaccinated. That opens up stadiums quicker. We know that the U.S. is now, or the NHL is now working with the federal government to get, during the trade deadline, hockey players that may be traded from the States up through the border, 7-day quarantine, and then be able to play for their Canadian teams. That means there's border access, which is good for CFL. David Williams, a doctor in Ontario, he's actually the chief medical officer in Ontario, has said they are doing studies in North America to find out if there's been any transmission at all in outdoor sports,
right,
including contact sports. And they're saying absolutely none. They can't find any cases. That's great for player safety. And finally, wrapping it up, Bill Suit C218.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Single game sports betting went through one more positive, unanimous yes vote today. One more step. It'll be legalized, and we can have single game gambling on the CFL when we return.
Oh, my God. And then Suits will be dropping gambling tips. Here's what I heard at Ticats today. It'll be fantastic.
I was just going to say, what will there be an over-under on Glen Suitor mentioning Keith Urban, mentions during a game?
Yeah, I'm going to have to let him go. He hasn't called me for a while.
Okay. All right.
I'm mad at it. Yeah, I'm mad at him.
Once you get back going, he'll be back.
I'm upset with him.
He's still on your iPod, though. He's still on your iPod. I guarantee you that one. Suits, thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday.
You too, guys. Thanks a lot.